Welcome to another episode of Simmer Clips. Today's community question is related to our core server-side tagging in Google Tag Manager. And here's the question. How do I seamlessly switch my server-side Google Tag Manager deployment from one cloud service to another? Now this question is related to the fact that you'll start probably with an App Engine deployment in the Google Cloud Platform. But at some point you'll want to upgrade or migrate your setup to another cloud service, a common option being Google Cloud Run, because of the benefits it brings to you in terms of multi-region deployment and additional redundancies behind a load balancer. In this Simmer Clips video, I'll show you how to do the switch as seamlessly as possible, but it will of course depend on the cloud services that you're switching from and the cloud services you're switching to, as well as how your DNS settings are configured. To get started, we have our basic setup running on Google App Engine, and we've mapped a custom domain name sgtm.teamsimmer.com to our App Engine application. We can now send a test request to the endpoint and then check preview mode for the test request. And if we focus on the incoming HTTP request, we can see that its headers include the App Engine header. So this is how we confirm that our custom domain is mapped to the App Engine application, because the App Engine application adds these custom headers to it. We also have a Google Cloud Run service running. It's a single service running on Europe North 1. There's also a preview service here. And now we want to make the switch. We want sgtm.teamsimmer.com traffic to be routed to our Cloud Run service instead of our App Engine service. Now, one thing to consider when using Cloud Run, first of all, is that custom domain mappings are currently available in only select regions. So if you want to use the automatic custom domain mapping that Google Cloud Platform offers for services like App Engine and Cloud Run, you need to make sure that the Cloud Run service is running in the correct region. In this case, we're running in Europe North 1. And if we take a look at the list of available regions for Cloud Run domain mapping, you can see that Europe North 1 is in this list. It is a very short list of regions. So in case you do have Cloud Run services running in other regions, you might want to consider a load balancer behind a static IP address instead. And I'll show you a quick look at this at the end of this video as well. But in this case, we are running in a supported region. And the Cloud Run service is running in the same project as our App Engine application. This makes it much easier to switch the domains. In this case, we're going to click the Manage Custom Domains option in the top bar. And here we're going to create a new domain mapping. So click Add Mapping to do so. From the services to map to, we're going to choose our tagging server, which is running on Europe North 1. And we're going to select a verified domain. So the domain should of course be already verified, because we have verified it for App Engine. Next, we're just going to click Continue. And then it's going to tell us to update the DNS records, but there's actually nothing to update. These DNS records for Cloud Run domain mappings are exactly the same as the ones for App Engine. So when ready, click Done. You'll now have a new domain mapping in Google Cloud Run, and you'll just need to wait for the spinner to stop spinning to have the domain mapping be updated from App Engine to Cloud Run. So even though the spinner is spinning, you can still give your new domain a test after waiting for a while, for example, for the time to live to expire the DNS cache. So we're going to reload our preview mode using the custom domain name that should now be mapped to Cloud Run. And then we're going to send the test request again in the same browser. Now, if we open that test request and look at the incoming HTTP request and expand the headers, you'll see that it no longer has the App Engine headers. And at this point, it means that it's actually routed through your Google Cloud Run setup instead. So we've successfully upgraded the setup. There was basically no downtime at all. This switch happened internally at Google's end and in your DNS cache, where the domain name no longer pointed to the App Engine setup, but now to the Cloud Run setup. One important thing to remember about this entire migration process, regardless of where you're migrating to or where you're migrating from, always keep both the new service and the old service running concurrently for a day or two, just to make sure that the caches expire so you don't remove the old service while some users might still be navigating to that due to stricter cache settings, for example. You can also confirm that the switch happened by checking the App Engine domain settings. There's no longer a mapping available in App Engine. You'll see that it's reverted back to this custom domain setting. So Google Cloud automatically does this internally when you're using the automatic domain mapping setup. Now, if you have configured Cloud Run with a load balancer and you're using a static IP address for it, migrating from one service to the next requires a DNS change. So in this case, you'll be copying the external static IP address you've reserved for your load balancer. And in DNS management, you'll need to create a new record for this. And this record will be an A record. And the domain name would be the one you want to map, and the value will be the IP address. Now, when you save this A record, you need to remove the corresponding A and AAAA records you've configured for the same name in App Engine or Cloud Run or whatever you're using. And this should happen pretty seamlessly because your DNS will make the switch. It just might happen at different times for different people, depending again on the time to live and the cache settings. But if you are adding the external static IP address, you just need to make sure that there aren't multiple records for the same domain name. Otherwise, Google Cloud will have no idea where to forward your traffic to. So when you save this single static IP record, you need to remove the 8 records that Cloud Run and App Engine use. And when you do that, your service will be updated. And these instructions apply to all the cloud services you might be migrating between. Make sure that you keep the old and the new service running concurrently, and make sure that the DNS records are straightforward and only include the records that your new service requires. Delete all the records that are related to the old service under the same domain name you want to map. And this is how you do a seamless migration. You don't have to touch anything in container settings because you haven't changed the domain name in the GTM container. You just need to make sure that these DNS changes are updated to point to the correct new cloud service.